In the hush of the desert night, when the pyramids cast long shadows under a silver moon, the name of Thoth drifts through history like a secret carried on the wind. He was not a warrior, nor a king, nor a builder of monuments. Instead, Thoth was the mind behind the cosmos, the ibis-headed god of wisdom, writing, and time itself. If Ra was the sun that lit the world, Thoth was the quiet intellect that measured its hours, recorded its stories, and whispered its mysteries into the ears of those who dared to listen. The Egyptians adored him, not for brute strength, but for his brilliance. He was the divine scribe, the keeper of balance, the one who invented hieroglyphs so that humans could trap fleeting thoughts in ink and stone. Without Thoth, the grand tales of pharaohs, the rituals of priests, and the dreams of immortality would have vanished like footprints in the sand. He was the cosmic librarian, cataloging not only the deeds of men, but the very laws of the universe. Legends say Thoth stood beside the scales of Mat, weighing the hearts of the dead against the feather of truth. Yet beyond this solemn duty, whispers claimed he held forbidden knowledge, secrets of eternity, formulas of immortality, and the power to bend time itself. To the Egyptians, Thoth was more than a god. He was the bridge between mortality and eternity, the one who knew how to cheat, decay, and laugh at the limits of human life. Imagine a god who could teach you not just how to write your grocery list, but how to write yourself into eternity. That was Thoth. He was the one who made scribes into magicians, priests into philosophers, and pharaohs into dreamers of forever. His wisdom was so vast that even the Greeks, centuries later, borrowed him, calling him Hermes Trismegistus, thrice great Hermes, and built entire mystical traditions on his shoulders. So, who was Thoth? He was the god who turned knowledge into power, time into rhythm, and mortality into a puzzle worth solving. He was the divine prankster who may or may not have slipped humanity the cheat codes to existence, leaving us to wonder whether immortality was ever within reach. And before you drift off into the sands of sleep, let me end this first chapter with a wink. Like and subscribe. And let me know in the comments from where you're watching, preferably somewhere cozy, under a blanket, half asleep, wondering if an ibis-headed god is about to hand you the secret to eternal life. If the gods of Egypt were actors on a cosmic stage, Thoth was the playwright, the director, and the timekeeper, all rolled into one, while Ra blazed across the heavens, and Osiris ruled the mysteries of the underworld. Thoth quietly kept the universe running on schedule. He was the divine mathematician, the one who measured the hours, tracked the stars, and ensured that the grand drama of existence unfolded with precision. The Egyptians believed that without Thoth, chaos would creep in. He was the balance against disorder, the one who recorded every event so that nothing was lost to forgetfulness. His wisdom was not just about clever sayings or witty remarks. It was the deep structural knowledge that held the cosmos together. He invented writing so humans could preserve memory, and he invented time so the gods could keep appointments, because even deities need a calendar when eternity stretches endlessly. Thoth's wisdom was legendary. He was said to know the names of every star, the secrets of every spell, and the formulas that governed both the living and the dead. He was the patron of scribes, who saw themselves as his earthly apprentices, scratching hieroglyphs onto papyrus with the hope that their words might echo through eternity. To write was to imitate Thoth, to capture fleeting thought and bind it into permanence. As the god of time, Thoth was also the keeper of cycles. He measured the waxing and waning of the moon, the flooding of the Nile, and the rhythm of seasons. Farmers relied on his calculations, priests relied on his calendars, and kings relied on his wisdom to plan their reigns. Without Thoth, the world would have been a jumble of days and nights, a cosmic soup without order. And yet there was humor in his role. Imagine being the god who has to remind Ra when sunrise is due, or who has to keep track of how many times Osiris has been resurrected. Thoth was the cosmic scheduler, the divine secretary, the one who ensured that eternity didn't miss a beat. His wisdom was practical, his timekeeping essential, and his presence a reminder that even the gods needed someone to keep things organized. In the grand Egyptian obsession with immortality, Thoth's role as the god of wisdom and time was crucial. For what is eternal life without the wisdom to understand it or the time to measure it? Thoth was the one who gave humans the tools to dream of forever and the calendars to count the days until they got there. If there was one theme that pulsed through the veins of ancient Egypt like the Nile itself, it was the obsession with immortality. The Egyptians did not see death as an ending but as a doorway, a passage into another realm where life continued in a different form. To them, eternity was not a vague dream but a practical project, something to be planned, engineered, and carefully maintained with rituals, symbols, and monuments. The pyramids stand as the most dramatic evidence of this obsession. These colossal structures were not simply tombs. They were machines of eternity, designed to preserve the body and guide the soul into the afterlife. Every stone was a prayer, every chamber a coded message to the gods. Pharaohs poured unimaginable resources into their construction, not because they feared death, but because they believed they could cheat it. Immortality was woven into daily life. Farmers left offerings for ancestors, believing their spirits lingered. Priests recited spells from the Book of the Dead, guiding souls through the perilous journey beyond. Even ordinary citizens hoped to secure a place in eternity by living in harmony with Mat, the principle of truth and balance. To live justly was to prepare for forever. But immortality in Egypt was not about endless physical existence. It was about continuity of the spirit, the Ka, the Ba, and the Ankh, three aspects of the soul that could survive death if properly cared for. The Ka was the life force, the Ba, the personality, and the Ankh, the transformed spirit that could dwell among the gods. Rituals ensured these elements remained intact, allowing the deceased to live eternally in the field of reeds, a paradise where crops grew tall and life was free of hardship. Thoth, the god of wisdom, was central to this obsession. He was believed to hold the formulas of eternity, the spells that could guide the soul safely through the afterlife. His presence in funerary texts was constant, his wisdom a lantern in the darkness of death. Without Thoth, immortality was a dream. With him, it became a possibility. And yet, there was humor in this grand pursuit. Imagine a civilization so determined to live forever that it invented elaborate rituals involving jars of organs, spells about talking doors, and instructions for avoiding crocodiles in the afterlife. The Egyptians treated eternity like a bureaucratic process, complete with paperwork, passwords, and divine administrators. It was immortality by way of cosmic red tape. Still, their obsession left a legacy that endures. The pyramids still rise, the papyrus scrolls still whisper, and the name of Thoth still hovers in the imagination. For the Egyptians, immortality was not just a hope, it was the very rhythm of existence, the heartbeat of a culture that refused to let death have the final word. For the ancient Egyptians, eternal life was not a vague dream of floating in clouds or wandering endlessly through time. It was a carefully structured vision, a continuation of existence in a perfected form. Death was seen as a transition, not an end, and the afterlife was imagined as a mirror of earthly life, fields of grain, flowing rivers, and familiar routines, but free of hardship, decay, and sorrow. The Egyptians believed the soul was composed of several parts, each with its own role in the journey beyond death. The Ka was the vital essence, the spark of life that needed offerings to remain strong. The Ba was the personality, the unique character that could travel between worlds. The Ankh was the transformed spirit, radiant and eternal, able to dwell among the gods. Eternal life meant keeping these parts intact, harmonized, and properly guided through the trials of the afterlife. To achieve this, elaborate rituals were devised. Tombs were stocked with food, clothing, and treasures, not as luxuries, but as necessities for the eternal journey. Spells from the Book of the Dead were inscribed on papyrus or carved into walls, serving as maps and passwords to navigate the dangers of the underworld. The deceased would face gates guarded by strange beings, rivers filled with serpents, and trials overseen by stern judges. Eternal life was not handed out freely. It had to be earned, prepared for, and carefully maintained. At the heart of this vision was Mat, the principle of truth, balance, and cosmic order. To live eternally, one's heart had to be light, free of lies and injustice. In the hall of judgment, the heart was weighed against the feather of Mat. If it balanced, the soul was granted eternal life in the field of reeds, a paradise of abundance. If it failed, the heart was devoured by Ammit, the fearsome creature of finality, and the soul was erased forever. Thoth, the god of wisdom, played a crucial role in this process. He was the divine scribe who recorded the outcome of the judgment, ensuring that justice was preserved. His presence reminded the Egyptians that eternal life was not chaos but law, not chance but order. To live forever was to live in harmony with truth, guided by wisdom and measured by time. And yet, there was a touch of humor in their vision. Imagine preparing for eternity by packing jars of pickled fish, sandals, and furniture, as if the afterlife were a long camping trip. The Egyptians treated eternal life with both reverence and practicality, blending cosmic philosophy with everyday needs. Their vision was grand, but also deeply human, shaped by the hope that life's joys could last forever. In the end, eternal life in ancient Egypt was not about escaping death, but transforming it. It was the promise that existence continued, that the soul endured, and that the rhythm of life flowed endlessly, guided by wisdom, balance, and the eternal presence of Thoth. In the grand theater of Egyptian myth, Thoth was not simply a scribe jotting down cosmic notes. He was the custodian of sacred knowledge, the keeper of divine secrets that even the gods themselves relied upon. While Ra blazed across the sky and Osiris ruled the underworld, Thoth quietly held the formulas, the incantations, and the laws that bound the universe together. He was the one who knew the words that could summon order from chaos, the rhythms that could heal, and the mysteries that could unlock eternity. The Egyptians believed that knowledge was not neutral, it was power, and power could shape destiny. Thoth's wisdom was said to include the hidden names of the gods, the spells that controlled the elements, and the secrets of the stars. To speak these words was to command reality itself. Priests whispered that Thoth had given humanity fragments of this knowledge, enough to guide them through life and death, but never the full measure, for the unprepared mind could collapse under its weight. Legends tell of scrolls hidden deep within temple vaults, texts so potent they were guarded by curses and divine warnings. These writings, attributed to Thoth, were said to contain instructions for communicating with spirits, traveling between worlds, and even bending the boundaries of mortality. To read them was to risk madness, yet to master them was to step closer to the gods. Thoth's sacred knowledge was not limited to magic. He was also the architect of law, the inventor of writing, and the measurer of time. His wisdom encompassed mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy. To the Egyptians, these disciplines were not separate but woven together, threads of a single tapestry that revealed the order of the cosmos. To study them was to walk in Thoth's footsteps, to glimpse the divine structure behind the visible world. And yet, there was humor in the way this knowledge was imagined. Picture a priest hunched over a scroll, convinced he is unlocking the secrets of eternity, only to discover that the divine formula looks suspiciously like instructions for brewing beer. The Egyptians knew that wisdom could be both profound and practical, both cosmic and everyday. Thoth embodied this duality, teaching humans not only how to reach for the stars, but also how to keep their sandals tied along the way. In the end, Thoth's sacred knowledge was a reminder that wisdom is the true path to immortality. Bodies crumble, monuments erode, but knowledge endures, passed from one generation to the next. To learn was to live forever, and to share wisdom was to plant seeds of eternity in the minds of others. Thoth, the ibis-headed god, was the eternal teacher, whispering that the greatest treasure of the gods was not gold or power, but the wisdom that makes existence meaningful. Among the most mysterious relics of forbidden Egyptian lore are the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, shimmering in legend like green jewels carved with cosmic secrets. Though their physical existence has long been debated, their story has endured for centuries, whispered in temples, retold by mystics, and reimagined by seekers of hidden wisdom. The tablets were said to be inscribed by Thoth himself, the ibis-headed god of wisdom, who recorded the laws of the universe in a language so pure that it could bend reality. Unlike ordinary papyrus scrolls, these tablets were imagined as indestructible, impervious to fire, flood, or time. They were not merely texts, but eternal artifacts, designed to carry knowledge across ages without decay. What did they contain? According to tradition, the Emerald Tablets revealed the secrets of creation, the nature of consciousness, and the path to immortality. They spoke of the unity of all things, the rhythm of cycles, and the hidden forces that shape existence. Some claimed they contained formulas for transmutation, the ability to turn base metals into gold, while others insisted they were guides for transforming the soul into its eternal form. The tablets became central to Hermetic philosophy, a mystical tradition that blended Egyptian wisdom with Greek thought. Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great Hermes, was said to have inherited Thoth's teachings, and the Emerald Tablets became the cornerstone of his doctrine. The famous phrase, "as above, so below," a declaration of cosmic correspondence, was attributed to these writings, echoing through centuries of alchemy, magic, and philosophy. For the Egyptians, the tablets symbolized permanence. Papyrus could crumble, stone could erode, but emerald was eternal, a fitting vessel for truths that transcended time. To imagine Thoth inscribing them was to imagine wisdom itself crystallized, preserved in green light, waiting for humanity to be ready. And yet, there is humor in the legend. Picture a priest stumbling upon one of these tablets, expecting divine revelation, only to find instructions for celestial bookkeeping. Step 1. Align the stars. Step 2. Balance the scales. Step 3. Don't forget to feed the sacred ibis. The Egyptians knew that wisdom could be lofty and practical, cosmic and mundane, and the tablets embodied that duality, whether they truly existed or not. The Emerald Tablets became a symbol of forbidden knowledge, a reminder that the deepest truths are often hidden in plain sight. They whisper that immortality is not about endless physical life, but about transformation, about aligning with the eternal laws that govern existence. In their shimmering mystery, they invite us to imagine that somewhere, perhaps buried beneath sand or hidden in the folds of consciousness, Thoth's eternal words still wait to be read. In the dim corridors of Egyptian temples, where incense curled like smoke from hidden fires, whispers spread of Thoth's most daring gift, the teaching of divine secrets to humankind. He was not only the scribe of the gods, but the bridge between mortal minds and cosmic wisdom. To the Egyptians, Thoth was the one who could slip forbidden truths into human hands, truths that might elevate them beyond their earthly limits. Legends claimed that initiates in the mystery schools were shown fragments of this knowledge, formulas for speaking with spirits, rituals for guiding the soul, and incantations that bent the laws of nature. These were not everyday lessons. They were cosmic cheat codes, carefully guarded, passed only to those who proved worthy through discipline and devotion. To learn them was to risk madness, for divine secrets carried a weight heavier than stone. Some believed Thoth taught humans how to ascend spiritually, to rise beyond the body and unite with the eternal. Others whispered that he revealed the hidden names of the gods, words so powerful they could command reality itself. The Emerald Tablets, the Book of Thoth, and countless scrolls were said to contain these teachings, though most were lost, hidden, or deliberately concealed. And yet there is humor in the image. A priest hunched over a scroll, convinced he is unlocking the mysteries of eternity, only to discover that the divine formula looks suspiciously like instructions for brewing beer or keeping cats happy. The Egyptians knew that wisdom could be both profound and practical, cosmic and everyday. Whether Thoth truly taught humans divine secrets remains a mystery. Perhaps he gave us fragments, enough to guide, but never enough to rival the gods. Perhaps the greatest secret was not a spell or a scroll, but the reminder that wisdom itself is divine, and that to seek knowledge is to step closer to eternity. The Egyptians dreamed endlessly of eternity, but their vision of immortality was not the same as the modern fantasy of living forever in the body. To them, immortality was spiritual, a continuation of the soul beyond death, while physical, eternal life, the idea of never dying in flesh, was seen as unnatural, even dangerous. Immortality meant the Ka, Ba, and Ach surviving the trials of the afterlife, harmonized through ritual and guided by divine wisdom. It was the promise of the field of reeds, a paradise where crops grew tall, rivers flowed gently, and life unfolded without suffering. This was not endless repetition of earthly existence, but a perfected state, a transformation into something radiant and eternal. Physical, eternal life, however, was another matter. Imagine a body that never decays, never rests, never escapes the burden of time. The Egyptians understood that flesh was fragile, bound to cycles of growth and decline. To cling to it forever would be to defy the rhythm of nature, to trap the soul in a cage of endless weariness. Their rituals of mummification were not attempts to preserve the body for eternity, but to prepare it as a vessel for the soul's journey. Thoth's wisdom illuminated this distinction. He taught that true immortality was not about resisting death, but about transcending it. The body was a temporary garment, the soul the eternal traveler. To seek physical, eternal life was to miss the point. To seek spiritual immortality was to align with the cosmic order. And yet, there is humor in imagining a pharaoh demanding eternal youth, only to discover that eternity also means endless paperwork, eternal sandals, and cats that never stop meowing. The Egyptians knew that the body was not built for forever. The soul, however, was. Thus, immortality was not about clinging to flesh, but about embracing transformation. It was the promise that while bodies crumble, wisdom endures, stories endure, and the soul flows endlessly in the rhythm of existence. In the vast gallery of Egyptian symbols, none shines brighter than the Ankh, the looped cross carried by gods, kings, and priests alike. To the casual eye, it looks simple, a teardrop loop atop a straight cross, but to the Egyptians, it was the very key to existence, the emblem of life itself. The Ankh was not just decoration, it was a promise. When carved into tomb walls or clutched in the hands of deities, it declared that life was eternal, flowing in cycles that never ended. Gods were often shown offering the Ankh to pharaohs, pressing it to their lips as if breathing vitality directly into them. In this gesture, the symbol became more than art. It was a divine transfusion, a reminder that the spark of life could be renewed endlessly. Its shape carried layers of meaning. Some saw the loop as the rising sun, the crossbar as the horizon, and the vertical stem as the path of light descending into the world. Others believed it represented the union of masculine and feminine energies, the balance of creation itself. Whatever the interpretation, the Ankh was a visual shorthand for eternity, a symbol that whispered, life does not end, it transforms. Thoth, the god of wisdom, was often depicted with the Ankh, reinforcing its connection to knowledge and immortality. To hold the Ankh was to hold the rhythm of existence, the secret that life flows beyond death. It was a reminder that immortality was not about clinging to flesh, but about embracing the eternal cycle. And yet, there is humor in imagining everyday Egyptians using the Ankh like a cosmic logo, stamping it on amulets, jewelry, and even furniture, as if eternity could be branded. The symbol became so common that it was both sacred and familiar, a divine mystery and a household charm. In the end, the Ankh was more than a symbol. It was a philosophy. It told the Egyptians that life was eternal, that death was a doorway, and that the spark of existence flowed endlessly, guided by wisdom and balance. Deep within the sanctuaries of Egypt, hidden behind walls of stone and guarded by priests sworn to secrecy, there were said to be sacred scrolls that carried the forbidden teachings of Thoth. These were not ordinary writings meant for public eyes. They were texts believed to contain the formulas of eternity, the incantations that could bend reality, and the wisdom that bridged mortals with the divine. The scrolls were whispered about in hushed tones, described as dangerous treasures. To read them without preparation was to risk madness, for the knowledge they carried was too vast for an untrained mind. They spoke of the soul's journey through the afterlife, the hidden names of gods, and the rituals that could summon forces beyond comprehension. Some claimed they contained instructions for resurrection, others that they revealed the secret of immortality itself. Priests and initiates were carefully chosen to study fragments of these teachings. They underwent years of discipline, ritual, and purification before being allowed even a glimpse. The scrolls were not meant to be understood by all. They were guarded because wisdom, when misused, could unravel the balance of the cosmos. Thoth, the god of wisdom, was imagined as the eternal librarian, deciding who was ready to receive the next page of truth. And yet there is humor in imagining a novice priest sneaking into the vaults, hoping to uncover the secret of eternal life, only to stumble upon a scroll that reads more like a recipe for brewing beer or instructions for feeding temple cats. The Egyptians knew that wisdom could be both cosmic and practical, and the line between sacred and everyday was often blurred. The sacred scrolls remain lost to time, their words scattered like sand across centuries, but their legend endures, reminding us that forbidden knowledge is not hidden to punish humanity, but to protect it. For in the hands of the unprepared, eternity is not a gift but a burden. In the dim sanctuaries of Egypt, knowledge was not handed out freely. It was guarded, veiled, and entrusted only to those who proved themselves worthy. The priests of Thoth were the custodians of this hidden wisdom, men and women who devoted their lives to ritual, discipline, and the pursuit of eternity. They were not simply temple attendants, they were initiates in a cosmic school, apprentices of the ibis-headed god himself. Initiation was no casual affair. Candidates were tested through years of study, purification, and symbolic trials. They learned the sacred scripts, memorized incantations, and practiced rituals designed to align their souls with the eternal order. Only after proving their discipline could they be shown fragments of the forbidden teachings, scrolls that spoke of immortality, formulas that bent reality, and secrets that bridged mortals with the divine. The priests believed that wisdom was dangerous in unprepared hands. To reveal too much was to risk chaos, for knowledge could be twisted into selfish power. Thus, the teachings were hidden, layered in allegory, concealed in symbols, and passed only to initiates who had demonstrated humility and reverence. The temple was not just a place of worship, but a school of eternity, where the lessons of Thoth were whispered in shadows. And yet, there is humor in imagining a nervous novice, convinced he is about to learn the secret of immortality, only to be handed a scroll that begins with instructions on how to properly clean temple floors. The Egyptians knew that wisdom was both cosmic and practical, and that the path to eternity required patience in the smallest tasks. In the end, the priests and initiates were guardians of balance. They carried fragments of Thoth's hidden knowledge, not to hoard it, but to protect humanity from its own impatience. Their devotion ensured that the wisdom of eternity was preserved, waiting for those who were ready to receive it. The Egyptians did not see death as a final curtain, but as a stage for rebirth, and their myths of resurrection shimmer with this conviction. Chief among them was the story of Osiris, the god who was slain, dismembered, and scattered across the land. only to be reassembled and revived through the devotion of Isis. His resurrection was not just a tale of divine drama. It was a cosmic lesson, teaching that life could rise again from ruin, that death was a cycle, not an end. These myths were woven into funerary texts, guiding souls through the perilous journey of the afterlife. Spells from the Book of the Dead spoke of doors that opened, rivers that carried, and guardians who tested the traveler. Each trial was a symbolic death, followed by renewal, echoing Osiris's own passage from destruction to eternity. To recite these spells was to rehearse resurrection, to prepare the soul for its transformation into the radiant Ankh. Resurrection was not limited to gods. The sun itself was reborn each dawn, rising from the darkness of night. The Nile flooded and receded, bringing life anew to the land. These cycles reassured the Egyptians that death was part of a rhythm, a pause before renewal. To them, resurrection was not miraculous but natural, embedded in the very fabric of existence. Thoth's wisdom was central to these myths. As the divine scribe, he recorded the laws of resurrection, ensuring that the balance of death and rebirth was preserved. His presence reminded the Egyptians that resurrection was not chaos but order, not chance but law. And yet, there is humor in imagining everyday Egyptians preparing for resurrection with jars of pickled fish, sandals, and furniture, as if eternity were a camping trip. Their devotion was profound, but their preparations were deeply human, blending cosmic philosophy with practical needs. In the end, resurrection myths taught that death was never the end. It was a doorway, a transformation, a rhythm of renewal. Through Osiris, through the sun, through the Nile, the Egyptians saw eternity not as a static state, but as a cycle of endless rebirth, guided by wisdom and balance. Among the most tantalizing whispers of Egyptian lore is the Book of Thoth, a text said to contain the deepest secrets of the gods. Unlike ordinary papyrus scrolls, this book was imagined as a repository of forbidden wisdom, spells that could command spirits, rituals that could open the gates of the afterlife, and formulas that might even grant immortality. It was not a book for casual reading. It was a cosmic manual, a dangerous treasure guarded by divine warnings. Legends claimed that those who read the Book of Thoth would gain mastery over the heavens, the ability to understand the language of animals, and the power to see into the realms beyond death. Yet the same legends warned that misuse of its knowledge would bring ruin, driving the unworthy into madness or destruction. The book was both a gift and a curse, a reminder that wisdom is power, and power must be handled with reverence. The rituals described within were said to be extraordinary. They included ceremonies of resurrection, invocations of divine names, and practices designed to transform the soul into its eternal form. Some believed the book contained instructions for bypassing the trials of the afterlife entirely, offering a direct path to eternity. Others thought it was a symbolic text, teaching that immortality was achieved not through magic, but through alignment with truth and wisdom. And yet, there is humor in imagining a priest finally unlocking the Book of Thoth, expecting cosmic revelations, only to find the first page filled with reminders about feeding temple cats and keeping the sacred ibis well-groomed. The Egyptians knew that wisdom could be both lofty and practical, and the line between divine ritual and everyday duty was often blurred. The Book of Thoth has never been found, its pages lost to time or deliberately hidden, but its legend endures, reminding us that some knowledge is too powerful to be freely given. Perhaps Thoth himself ensured that the book would remain elusive, waiting for humanity to be ready. Or perhaps the true Book of Thoth is not a scroll at all, but the wisdom we carry within, revealed slowly as we learn to live in harmony with eternity. The Egyptians believed that wisdom was a double-edged gift. On one side, it illuminated the path to eternity. On the other, it carried dangers too great for unprepared minds. This is why the deepest teachings of Thoth, the scrolls, the rituals, the formulas whispered in temple shadows, were deliberately concealed. Knowledge was not forbidden because it was evil, but because it was overwhelming. Priests guarded the secrets with layers of allegory and symbolism, ensuring that only initiates who had proven discipline and humility could glimpse fragments of the truth. To hand immortality to anyone without preparation would be like giving fire to a child, powerful but perilous. The gods themselves were imagined as cautious, fearing that humans might misuse divine knowledge, bending it. The concealment was also practical. In a world where power was tied to ritual and authority, hidden knowledge reinforced the sacred role of priests and temples. It created a boundary between ordinary life and the mysteries of eternity, reminding people that immortality was not a casual pursuit, but a sacred journey. And yet, there is humor in imagining a novice stumbling upon a scroll, expecting cosmic revelations, only to find instructions for temple housekeeping or reminders to feed the sacred animals. The Egyptians knew that wisdom could be lofty and mundane, and that the path to eternity required patience in both. In the end, the knowledge was hidden not to deny humanity, but to protect it. Thoth's wisdom was preserved in secrecy, waiting for those who were ready to carry its weight. The concealment itself became part of the lesson. Immortality is not a prize to be seized, but a truth to be earned through reverence, discipline, and balance. For the Egyptians, immortality was never simply about clinging to flesh or stretching the bodies years beyond their natural limit. It was about spiritual ascension, the soul rising into harmony with the eternal order, transformed into something radiant and divine. Death was not an end, but a doorway, and beyond it lay the possibility of becoming more than human, of joining the rhythm of the cosmos itself. The journey of ascension was described in rituals, myths, and sacred texts. The Ka, Ba, and Ankh, the vital essence, the personality, and the transformed spirit were guided through trials in the afterlife. Each challenge was symbolic, each spell a step upward, each offering a reminder that immortality was not a gift but a process. To ascend was to shed the weight of mortality, to rise beyond fear, and to embrace the eternal light. Thoth's wisdom was central to this vision. He was the scribe who recorded the laws of ascension, the teacher who whispered the formulas of transformation. His presence reminded the Egyptians that immortality was not chaos but order, not a trick but a discipline. To ascend spiritually was to align with Mat, the principle of truth and balance, and to live in harmony with the eternal rhythm. And yet there is humor in imagining a soul preparing for ascension with jars of food, sandals, and furniture, as if eternity were a long camping trip. The Egyptians blended cosmic philosophy with practical needs, reminding us that even the path to divinity required a touch of humanity. In the end, immortality as spiritual ascension was the promise that the soul could rise, that existence could continue in a perfected form, and that wisdom itself was the ladder to eternity. In the Egyptian vision of eternity, magic and consciousness were not separate forces, but two sides of the same coin. Magic, or Heka, was the divine energy woven into the fabric of existence, a power that could be summoned through words, symbols, and ritual. Consciousness was the human ability to perceive, to align with this energy, and to direct it toward transformation. Together, they formed the bridge between mortality and immortality. The Egyptians believed that every spell, every incantation, was not simply a trick, but a conscious act of harmonizing with the cosmic order. To speak the right words was to awaken hidden forces. To think with clarity was to align the soul with truth. Magic was not superstition, but a science of the spirit, a way of tuning human awareness to the eternal rhythm. Thoth, the god of wisdom, was the master of this union. He taught that consciousness was the key to unlocking magic, and that magic was the tool for guiding consciousness beyond the limits of flesh. Priests trained for years to master this balance, learning to focus the mind, to speak with precision, and to direct energy toward ascension. And yet, there is humor in imagining a novice priest attempting a grand spell, only to accidentally summon a swarm of temple cats instead of cosmic wisdom. The Egyptians knew that magic required discipline, and that consciousness was the true safeguard against chaos. In the end, the role of magic and consciousness was simple but profound: to remind humanity that immortality was not about resisting death, but about awakening the mind to its eternal nature. Magic was the language of the cosmos, consciousness the listener, and together they whispered the secret that eternity was already within. In the mythology of Egypt, the gods were mighty, eternal, and seemingly untouchable. Yet hidden in the stories is a subtle suggestion. Perhaps the gods feared what humans might become if they learned too much. Thoth, the keeper of wisdom, was said to have shared fragments of divine secrets with mortals, spells, rituals, and knowledge that could elevate the soul. But never the full measure. Why? Because to grant humanity complete mastery over eternity might blur the line between mortal and divine. The gods thrived on balance. The principle of truth and order, was the foundation of the cosmos. If humans wielded the same powers as the gods, the ability to command reality, to bypass death, to ascend without trial, the balance could collapse. The myths hint that divine knowledge was rationed, concealed, and guarded not out of cruelty, but out of caution. Priests whispered that the gods feared human ambition. A mortal, armed with forbidden wisdom, might rival the divine, upsetting the cosmic hierarchy. Thus, the deepest teachings were hidden in allegory, locked in scrolls, or buried in temples, waiting only for initiates who had proven humility and discipline. And yet, there is humor in imagining the gods watching humans struggle with rituals, amused by their endless jars of offerings and elaborate tomb preparations. Perhaps the gods did not fear humanity so much as they feared our impatience, our desire to leap into eternity without first learning balance. In the end, the question of whether the gods feared human power is less about rivalry and more about readiness. The divine knew that immortality was not a prize to be seized, but a truth to be earned. To protect the balance, they gave humanity fragments of wisdom, enough to guide, but never enough to overwhelm. The sands of Egypt do not only hide tombs and temples, they conceal whispers of lost technologies and forgotten wisdom. Ancient texts and legends hint that the Egyptians may have possessed knowledge far beyond what we imagine today, sciences and practices that blurred the line between magic and engineering, ritual and technology. Some stories speak of devices that harnessed sound or light, tools that could move massive stones with ease, or rituals that aligned human consciousness with cosmic forces. The pyramids themselves are often seen as evidence of this lost wisdom. Their precision, their alignment with the stars, and their enduring strength suggest methods we still struggle to fully explain. Were they simply monuments, or were they machines of eternity designed to guide souls into the afterlife? Priests of Thoth were said to guard this knowledge, passing fragments to initiates while concealing the rest. The wisdom may have included advanced medicine, astronomy, and even techniques for preserving energy within sacred spaces. To the Egyptians, these were not separate disciplines, but threads of a single tapestry, woven together by the principle of mat, balance, and order. And yet, there is humor in imagining a priest proudly unveiling a lost technology, only for it to be an elaborate contraption for keeping temple cats entertained. The Egyptians blended the cosmic with the practical, reminding us that wisdom was not only about eternity, but also about daily life. Whether these technologies truly existed or are simply legends, they continue to inspire wonder. Perhaps they were lost to time, buried beneath sand, or deliberately hidden to protect humanity from its own impatience. Or perhaps the greatest technology of all was not mechanical, but spiritual. The ability to align the soul with the eternal rhythm of existence. Modern history often tells the story of Egypt in fragments, pyramids as tombs, hieroglyphs as art, mummies as curiosities. Yet in doing so, it tends to ignore the deeper philosophy and wisdom that animated this civilization. The Egyptians were not simply obsessed with death. They were architects of eternity, weaving spiritual science into every ritual, symbol, and myth. What is often overlooked is their vision of immortality as a disciplined pursuit. Texts like the Book of the Dead are reduced to funerary spells, when in truth they were manuals of consciousness, guides for transforming the soul. The pyramids are explained as feats of engineering, but rarely as cosmic instruments aligned with stars, designed to mirror the heavens and anchor eternity on earth. Modern accounts also downplay the role of Thoth, the god of wisdom. He is mentioned as a mythological scribe, but his presence as the custodian of divine law, the teacher of hidden knowledge, and the bridge between mortals and gods is often ignored. To the Egyptians, Thoth was not a character in myth, but the embodiment of truth itself, the one who ensured that immortality was possible. And yet, there is humor in imagining historians dismissing Egyptian rituals as superstition, while the Egyptians themselves might smile knowingly, aware that their wisdom was encoded in symbols too subtle for casual eyes. What modern history ignores is not the facts, but the meaning, the philosophy that made every stone, every scroll, every ritual part of a grand design. In the end, Egypt's greatest legacy is not just its monuments, but its vision of eternity. Modern history may overlook this, but the sands still whisper. Immortality is not a fantasy, but a discipline, a truth hidden in plain sight, waiting for those who choose to see. As the story winds toward its end, the figure of Thoth stands quietly in the imagination, ibis-headed, scroll in hand, watching humanity with patient eyes. For all the legends of hidden books, forbidden rituals, and divine secrets Perhaps the final truth about Thoth and immortality is simpler than we expect. Thoth did not hand mortals a formula for endless flesh, nor a spell to cheat death. Instead, he offered something subtler, the wisdom to see that immortality is not about resisting the inevitable, but about embracing transformation. The body fades, but the soul ascends. Knowledge endures, stories endure, balance endures. In this way, eternity is not stolen from the gods. It is lived through harmony with the rhythm of existence. The Egyptians understood this. Their pyramids, their scrolls, their rituals were not desperate attempts to cling to life, but disciplined acts of preparation, reminders that immortality was already within reach if one lived in truth and balance. Thoth's gift was not a secret spell, but the very act of seeking wisdom, of aligning consciousness with the eternal. And yet, there is a gentle humor in imagining Thoth smiling at humanity's endless curiosity, amused by our desire to turn eternity into a recipe or a machine. Perhaps his lesson was that immortality cannot be contained in a scroll or a symbol, but must be discovered within the soul itself. So the story closes as the desert night deepens. The pyramids glow faintly under the stars. The Nile whispers its eternal song, and Thoth's presence lingers like a quiet guardian of wisdom. Immortality is not a prize to be seized, but a rhythm to be lived. And now, as the tale drifts into silence, let the weight of the day fall away. Close your eyes, breathe with the rhythm of the eternal, and rest in the gentle truth that wisdom endures, and so do you. Good night.